Dinar shift, the screens that govern the movement of all global wealth. Those pulsing displays inside the financial citadels of New York, London, Dubai, and Singapore flashed a sequence of data this morning that will be studied and remembered for generations. Something that had been long relegated to the fringes of financial discussion, often dismissed with a cynical wave of the hand by mainstream analysts, was suddenly thrust into the undeniable reality of the global marketplace. The Iraqi Dinar and the Vietnamese Dong were officially, unequivocally, live on the world's major foreign exchange platforms. It was a seismic event, a moment that transcended mere currency trading to become a symbol of national resurgence and a fundamental shift in the landscape of global economics. For the millions of people who had followed the story of these currencies, holding on to a belief that this day would arrive, it was the ultimate, resounding validation. The global financial system, long accustomed to a certain order, had just witnessed a genuine, historical transformation, and the ripple effects began spreading instantly. The initial indicators were so subtle that they were largely mistaken for technical anomalies by all but the most alert traders in the European markets. In the pre-dawn quiet of London, a few eagle-eyed veterans monitoring proprietary feeds noticed an odd flutter in the minor currency pairs. A dormant trading code, the IQD-USD pair, that had been absent from active screens for a significant period, blinked into existence on specialized terminals for a fraction of a second. A moment later, the Vietnamese Dong followed suit, its symbol appearing in a synchronized flash. The collective, unstated question that hung in the air across trading floors was whether their eyes were deceiving them. Was this a deep system error, a momentary hardware glitch, or was it the quiet opening chord of an event that would reshape the daily work of every financial institution? The silence of those early minutes was the kind of pregnant hush that precedes an inevitable, world-altering declaration. As the minutes ticked on toward 40:15 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, the scattered reports coalesced into an unassailable truth. The deluge of confirmations began with a momentous announcement: the Central Bank of Iraq had successfully executed the long-anticipated reinstatement of its currency onto the international stage. This move was not an isolated action, it was immediately followed by a synchronized confirmation from Vietnam. The dual simultaneous return of these two historically significant currencies was an act unparalleled in the modern era of finance. Across continents and through multiple time zones, the reaction was a mixture of shock and intense scrutiny. From the halls of the U.S. Treasury in Washington to the executive suites of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, emergency communications were established. Senior banking executives joined rapid-fire, high-level coordination calls, all described by one official as an atmosphere of controlled urgency. On the public-facing screens of the world's financial hubs, the spectacle unfolded in real time, a moment many had been waiting decades to witness. The foreign exchange platforms, which operate with relentless transparency, began displaying active, moving rates for both the Iraqi Dinar and the Vietnamese Dong. At precisely 40:37 a.m. Eastern Time, the transition from rumor to visible fact was complete. The initial public reporting showed the Dinar making a significant adjustment, posting a value equivalent to 3.91 per U.S. unit. The Vietnamese equally reflected a recalibration of its economic standing, settling at a new valuation of the 0.47. The move was definitive, official, and irreversible. Both currencies were not just backed, they were internationally recognized and actively trading assets, immediately triggering a global chain reaction of portfolio adjustments and emotional responses. The immediate public reaction was nothing short of explosive. The high-traffic currency forums and online financial communities, which had served as the virtual gathering points for believers and skeptics alike, were overwhelmed and temporarily crashed under the weight of simultaneous user access. On social media platforms, terms related to the event, such as Bay Qdren stated and Devient Livret, rocketed to the top of trending topics within minutes. In the influential wealth management centers of Dubai and Singapore, investors with significant assets were already in motion, directing their portfolio managers to execute pre-planned maneuvers. This wasn't merely a trading day. It was an activation point for years of patient waiting and careful, confidential preparation by a sector of the global investment community. The news reached Baghdad with the speed of a shockwave, spreading instantly through the city. Banks that had been discreetly preparing their systems and staff for weeks opened their doors to an extraordinary scene. The streets outside were soon lined with people, many of whom carried well-preserved bundles of old dinar notes that had been held as a testament to future hope. The scene was one of profound, visible emotion. Some people openly wept, while others embraced with wide smiles. A gentleman standing outside a local branch articulated the collective feeling, stating, "We were told this day would come. We never stopped believing." This is not just about finance, it's about the spirit of a nation. For a country that has borne the heavy weight of conflict, international sanctions, and political instability, the rise of its currency was a powerful, symbolic moment of national recovery and financial dignity. In parallel, Vietnam managed its transition with a distinctive and measured precision. The State Bank of Vietnam issued a statement confirming its seamless alignment with the newly established international market parameters. Citizens in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City also converged upon banking centers, but the mood was one of organized confirmation rather than chaos. Officials quickly and effectively reassured the public that their savings were entirely secure and that the entire transition had been the result of a meticulously planned and controlled reform process. This was framed not as a sudden emergency, but as a deliberate and powerful move to allow the dong to reflect what the government termed its true economic value. The message Vietnam projected was clear: its currency was now a genuine international reflection of its rapidly expanding and dynamic economy, signifying its arrival on the world stage as a sovereign and equal economic power. Deep within the global financial infrastructure, a complex, high-level protocol swung into operation. Major international banking conglomerates including Chase BC, and Deutsche Bank had discreetly activated what was known in closed circles as Project Phoenix. This highly confidential, pre-prepared program was specifically designed to facilitate the smooth re-entry and management of dormant currencies returning to active international trade. The very existence of such a mechanism was unknown to most outside the highest echelons of global finance. Operating under the direct oversight of the IMF, this robust protocol played a crucial role in stabilizing the sudden influx of liquidity and in mitigating any potential destabilizing shock to the global dollar-based system. Its activation confirmed that the day's events were not random. They were the execution of a carefully timed, globally coordinated financial reset. The global impact of this synchronization was instant and profound, leading analysts to immediately declare it the dawn of a new financial era. For decades, the global trade stage had been unequivocally dominated by the US dollar and the euro. Now, two new, significant players had stepped into the arena, fundamentally altering the existing balance of power. The reinstatement of the Iraqi dinar represented far more than just a change in numerical value. It was a potent symbol of national sovereignty, a country declaring its financial independence following years of rebuilding and systemic reform. Similarly, Vietnam's rise marked a significant economic awakening for the entire Southeast Asian region, a long-awaited moment of regional validation and ascent. Collectively, these two currency events offered tangible proof that the distribution of global financial power was undergoing a measurable and non-violent transformation. Inside major U.S. banks, the atmosphere was one of intensely organized activity. Private wealth managers began discreetly contacting clients who held substantial positions in either IQD or VND. The process of currency conversion was conducted with a heightened level of security and efficiency. Specialized rate codes, which had previously been reserved only for large-scale institutional trading, were suddenly made active for select pre-approved client appointments. Various currency exchange centers, especially in key regions like Texas, Florida, and Nevada, began opening their doors earlier than normal to accommodate the demand. Surveillance and security were visibly tight, the queues were long, and the emotional investment of the people waiting was palpable. These individuals, who had held on to notes often mocked as worthless, were now walking into banks for a financial validation that could translate to significant wealth. A seasoned veteran of the global forex market provided a striking description of the unfolding event, comparing it to watching a dam burst after years of contained pressure. He explained that the change was far-reaching, fundamentally altering global liquidity flows, impacting currency ratios, and eventually recalibrating international trade balances. The news sent reverberations into the ultra-private banking centers of Zurich, Geneva, and Hong Kong, where private bankers were inundated with calls seeking confirmation and immediate strategy advice. The global appetite for verification and involvement was overwhelming. By the middle of the day, the IMF released a concise public statement that confirmed the reinstatement, referring to it as a milestone of historical significance, and explicitly praising both nations for successfully meeting crucial compliance standards, signaling their undeniable readiness for fully open global commerce. What was unfolding publicly was the culmination of a massive, meticulously detailed effort that had been in motion for a considerable time. Insiders revealed that extensive, secret testing of the systems had been conducted for weeks prior to the public announcement. Simulated market environments were run non-stop, stress testing every conceivable market scenario to ensure stability and prevent any potential financial crash. Selected, pre-cleared banks worldwide had already received encrypted need-to-know alerts preparing them for the transition. Even SCU-FT, the foundational global payment network, had quietly and seamlessly executed critical system updates days before the news went public. The entire operation had been orchestrated with extraordinary precision and control. The central unifying message being broadcast by the financial architects was that this was a controlled release of value, not a chaotic, accidental failure. While the streets of Baghdad and Hanoi were filled with joyous celebrations, a more cautious, high-stakes series of discussions was simultaneously taking place in the major financial capitals of Washington, London, and Beijing. Some leading economists expressed initial concerns that such a rapid and dramatic revaluation could potentially disrupt established global trade balances. Other experts, however, argued that this event represented the crucial, necessary first step toward achieving long-term global financial stability. The one universally accepted fact was that the global financial system was actively evolving. The markets were becoming decidedly more multipolar, exhibiting a new level of balance, and inherently less predictable in the short term. The combined re-emergence of the dinar and the dong sent a clear signal: financial power on the world stage was no longer an exclusive, one-sided possession. Across the Middle East, the news was received with an outpouring of profound national pride. The Central Bank of Iraq issued a formal statement that specifically honored the resilience of the Iraqi people and their unwavering faith in the nation's future. "Our currency stands strong again," the declaration proudly proclaimed. In the streets, national flags were waved vigorously and with deep emotion. For countless Iraqis, this moment was about far more than just monetary value. It was an affirmation of their dignity. The dinar, which had once been a painful symbol of national hardship and suffering, now stood as a powerful emblem of renewed strength and national resurgence. The celebration was not merely a financial victory, but a deeply felt spiritual validation. Vietnamese officials echoed a similar, but more reserved, sentiment of quiet determination. A spokesperson for the government announced, "We have entered a new age," emphasizing that a strong, economically stable Vietnam was a positive force for the world as a whole. Banking institutions operated extended hours, making a concerted effort to ensure that every citizen was included in the orderly, controlled transition process. Younger citizens documented the moment by taking photographs with their newly revalued notes, while the older generation watched on with a quiet, profound sense of accomplishment. The dong was recognized as more than just a national currency. It was tangible evidence that patience, steady progress, and deliberate planning had finally yielded their expected returns on the world stage. Global financial centers adapted with astonishing speed. The London Stock Exchange registered immediate, significant surges in the stock values of companies directly linked to Iraq's vital oil and infrastructure sectors. In Tokyo, manufacturing firms with extensive operations in Vietnam saw their share prices climb by over 20% in a single trading session. The gold and oil commodity markets reacted with heightened volatility, experiencing rapid swings as traders raced to recalculate and factor in the new fundamental currency values. What had begun as a seemingly quiet, technical currency reinstatement had swiftly transformed into a global financial event, a profound transformation driven not by market panic, but by the anticipation of a restructured global economy. Inside the U.S. Treasury, unconfirmed reports suggested an urgent, top-level coordination meeting was taking place. The efforts were intensely focused on carefully shaping the global narrative surrounding the events, with the overriding objective of preventing widespread panic and ensuring a sense of calm confidence. One analyst described the internal objective as managing perception. The strategy was not to deny the news or attempt to artificially delay its spread, but to allow the information to flow organically and naturally. The guiding principle was that confidence, rather than confusion, had to be the dominant public emotion. The world was clearly entering a fundamentally new monetary chapter, and stability was the non-negotiable directive of the day. The emotional resonance of the event played out dramatically on social media. Individuals shared heartfelt photographs of old dinar notes, often showing bundles that had been carefully stored away in drawers for years. Families across the globe celebrated together, with many acknowledging that this day had irrevocably changed the trajectory of their future. One viral post read, "Everyone laughed when I bought those notes. Now they're the ones calling me." Another simply stated, "Faith won." For the countless people around the world who had maintained their belief in this possibility, the moment was about far more than simple financial profit. It was an all-encompassing validation of their long-held belief against widespread mainstream skepticism. In the United States, specialized, high-security exchange centers were operating with visible efficiency. There were unconfirmed reports suggesting that non-disclosure agreements, CNDAs, were being presented to certain participants, particularly at the private, higher-tier exchange locations. Other reports hinted at the activation of specific, favorable contract rates that were being made available to pre-approved clients holding substantial amounts. While the precise internal details of these transactions remained opaque, the one indisputable fact was that the process was being executed in real time. This was no longer theoretical discussion, it was a tangible, active process unfolding hour by hour, marking the concrete transition from speculation to reality. Simultaneously, the Prime Minister of Iraq delivered a televised address to the nation, his message resonating through every home. His words were a powerful declaration. The Iraqi dinar stands once more as the true symbol of our sovereignty, our enduring strength, and the promise of our future. The crowds that gathered erupted in cheers, and fireworks illuminated the night sky. After enduring years of conflict, political instability, and persistent uncertainty, Iraq was unambiguously and symbolically taking back control of its financial destiny. The moment was an intense fusion of history, deep emotion, and national unity. The Vietnamese government delivered its own official message, characterized by a tone that was calm, proud, and notably firm. "This is the rise of a strong Vietnam." One high-ranking official declared, "We are proud to join the world's financial stage as an equal." Citizens were strongly urged to maintain their composure, to place their full confidence in the stability of the system, and to hold faith in the integrity of the process. They responded with the expected discipline. For Vietnam, this event represented more than an economic growth statistic. It was the ultimate global recognition of its national development and hard-earned place in the world. The IMF, in a subsequent analysis, referred to the entire event as a global equalizer. Analysts widely suggested that this was likely the pivotal first step toward the realization of a more balanced and equitably distributed global economy. A new system, they posited, where intrinsic values like natural resources, robust national production, and the sheer scale of the population would carry more weight than pure financial speculation. Both Iraq and Vietnam had been quietly and deliberately building toward this critical moment for years, and the rest of the world was now playing catch-up to their successful preparations. As the hours progressed, major banking institutions across the United States, Europe, and Asia issued comprehensive new trading guidance. Foreign exchange platforms experienced unprecedented surges in volume as retail traders rushed in, eager to participate in the market before the new rates had a chance to fully stabilize. Seasoned market experts issued immediate warnings about the inevitable high volatility and advised extreme caution in trading. However, the prevailing emotion in the market was not fear, it was an overwhelming excitement. The global financial atmosphere was once again palpably alive with new possibilities and the prospect of fundamental change. As darkness finally descended across the Asian continent, the glow of trading screens in financial centers worldwide remained intensely bright. The initial, faint whispers that had circulated in the early hours of the morning had amplified, becoming the loudest, most resounding echo in the entire global market. The long-awaited declaration, "It's finally happening," was now an established, irrefutable fact. The currencies that had once been casually dismissed by skeptics as worthless were now actively, undeniably rewriting the global financial map. Today marks the turning of a page in financial history. The dinar and the dong have successfully emerged from the shadows of doubt and into the unambiguous light of global financial reality. The entire world of finance has just undergone a fundamental, structural change. And for all those who maintained their belief, who patiently endured the waiting, this day provided the ultimate, undeniable proof of their conviction. This is not a conclusion to a story, it is the defining beginning of an entirely new era. Because when nations successfully rise and reassert their financial independence, their currencies do not simply adjust numerical values on a screen. They move the hearts of people, they redefine national futures, and they alter the very course of global history. As the first rays of the new sunrise break over the historic cities of Baghdad and Hanoi, one truth stands unassailable: the wait is over. The dinar and the dong are back, and the world will never operate in quite the same way again. For more informational videos, like and subscribe my YouTube channel.